The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Hello, everyone. It's time to clean the slate and get fired up for The Norm Kent Show. With a passion for principle and politics, it is the mouth that roared. A mad-as-hell civil rights advocate who has spent the past 40 years representing everyone from priests to pornographers in courts from coast to coast. Today, he goes to bat for you, defending your rights and protecting your liberties. He is a beeper for your conscience. But you can reach Norm now to censure him abusively or celebrate him justly. Light up the lines, light them up at 888-565-1470 and let the sparks fly. Medical ones, of course. That's 888-565-1470. 2 hours of hot talk begins right now.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Norm Kent, local and live, here on WWNNradio.com.
And welcome one. Welcome all this Monday, October 26, 2020, the morning after the weekend before, when all across the country, the President of the United States went around making a speech saying, we're rounding the curve and turning the corner. And with him at the helm, we're heading off the cliff. One of the things that enabled that man to become president was because he laughed and mocked at political leaders who said one thing and did another. Said, but do as I say and not as I do, apparently is the watchword of this administration. Because as I come on the air today, the vice president and his entire staff should be in quarantine because his inner circle all tested positive for the coronavirus. And he says, as the head of that task force, that if you test positive, you and your loved ones and your family members and your friends need to go into quarantine. But if you believe them, despite what the facts and scientists say, it's all over, but the shouting. The game has been won. The course has been run. Nobody is dying anymore from the coronavirus, COVID-19, or the consequences thereof. But all of us in this community and in this country, we know different. We have seen it affect us professionally and personally. And that's why I made this show COVID-centric starting in February. And I'm happy to say that just this morning, I got an email from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation that they're going to back and continue to sponsor the show as I make it conscientious and committed and comprehensive to understanding the depths and gravity of this virus, but it has never hit so hard as it is hit. Okay, we're back with you, and I'm starting again. My computer failed in the year of colossal failures. I was introducing you to the frightening loss of a dear friend, a close personal acquaintance, a mentor, a magician, a legal star, and a thespian. His partner is on the phone to share the show with me. and open on this Monday, October 26th. This is Norm Kent Raw, live at 4. I do not know what part of the introduction I was knocked off in. So let me just simply say again, in this pandemically compromised year, that the virus is not gone. I said earlier that we turned a curve, the president said, that we're rounding the corner, the president said. What he did not say is that he's heading us off a cliff. Let me welcome Joshua Entin, nephew and law partner of Alvin Entin, born in Brooklyn, New York, 75 years ago last Sunday, who came to Florida after graduating from American University in Washington and attending his beloved University of Miami School of Law, where he won moot court champions and went on to champion the causes and rights of so many, so eloquently and elegantly, in a life, as we like to say in the Jewish tradition, in a life well lived. Joshua, the grief I have is beyond words, and I thought you could help us get through this hour by kicking off your own thoughts and remembrances of Alvin Entin, who celebrated his 50th year in the Florida bar
Norm,
this month.
thanks so much for having me on. This is just an unbelievable shock to me and to all of his friends and family, and to you included. I know how personal this is to you, and I know how wonderful your relationship with Alvin was over the years. And it's just a devastating loss to my family and to the legal community. He was just one of a kind and will never be replaced.
And his reputation as a trial lawyer from the Virgin Islands to Victoria in British Columbia is of a renown and stature that the tributes coming in to him today are from everybody from state attorneys to Republican congressmen. But you knew him not only as a law partner, but as a family man, of the father of 6 children, all of whom have grown up tremendously in their own stature. To share what made him so special to so many.
As much as he was a fantastic trial lawyer and an advocate for his clients, he was also so much in love with his family and so proud of all of his children and all of their accomplishments that they did in their own right. And that's what made him proudest of all, was the success of his children and the love that they had for each other. His daughter, Amanda, who followed in his footsteps and became an attorney, a very successful attorney, an NYU law grad, and lives in New York. And of course, the twins out in California, who you know so well, who pursued an acting career and have become successful in their own right. And Marcia Kay in South Carolina, who's just the most beautiful and most sensitive of anybody that I know. And Keith, who's here, and you have a personal relationship with Keith. And Seth, who just moved to Orlando, works for Universal Studios. Each of them has lived a successful life, and they have all remained close. And I think that Alvin would tell you that his greatest accomplishment was the success of his family.
Here's a guy who could author something called The Trial Tactics in Multi-Defendant Cases for the South Carolina Bar in one breath, and then in another recite the words from a major modern general and the Pirates of Penzance in another, and then go to a comic book collectors convention with you and me,
right,
and pick out the world's finest number 3 with Superman pitching and Batman batting and Robin catching, and know it all inside out.
Right. I mean, he had a photographic memory, and I can tell you, I knew this as a young lawyer back in 2001 when I started practicing law, and I was with a firm in Miami Beach. But Alvin and I did some work together over the years before we became partners in 2012. And something that I learned very early in my career was that, Alvin was the fiercest advocate that somebody would want as their lawyer. I mean, he was a lawyer's lawyer, incredibly high-profile cases, successful acquittals in major defense matters. But with all that being said, it didn't matter how hard he fought for his clients. Every U.S. attorney, every assistant U.S. attorney, every state attorney, every judge that he appeared in front of, from, like you said, the Virgin Islands to New York to California, they all fell in love with Alvin. They were enthralled by him and his charisma. And that is why, from a professional standpoint, his circle is so large.
I used to say in the 60s, we were talking about the furry freak brothers, and here he was this moderate Republican candidate for Congress at one time, and I'm this Democratic liberal. And I used to say in the 60s, this saying we had, when you're smashing the state, keep a song in your heart and a smile on your lips. How was Alvin, as strong an advocate as he was for so many causes, able to do that and leave people just enchanted and impressed with his being and soul, that they came out of it knowing that they had met a very special person in that professional encounter?
That's a great question, and it goes to why he was so magical. And I think that his honesty, his ethics, and his integrity are the reason why, just everybody was enchanted by him and attracted to him, even those who were opposed to him. Everybody knew when Alvin said something that he had the goods, that, he was telling you something that was real. He was not a bullshit artist. He was what he was. You got what you got with him, and he was trustworthy. And and everybody could rely upon anything that he said, whether it was his clients, a judge, or an opposing counsel. But he also found in every single person that he dealt with, whatever their personal interest was, he had background on that. Like you said, this is somebody who could talk comic books, had the most unbelievable encyclopedic memory of baseball. I mean, if you asked him who the starting lineup was for the 1924 Brooklyn Dodgers, he would tell you. This is a person who would find common ground with anybody that he was dealing with, whether it would be an opposing attorney, a client, somebody in the thespian community with P.P. Topa, which he loved so much, the judges. He would create a bond based on mutual interests in a way
Joshua,
that very few people can do.
Thank you, Joshua, so much. And let me see, I have a couple of other people calling in to share some thoughts about Alvin, including, I'm hoping, State Florida Representative Michael Gottlieb should be on the line now. So,
great.
So thank you.
Thank
for
you,
calling
Norm.
in, and I'll talk to you soon. And don't worry about going to breaks. If Michael Gottlieb's on the line, we'll put him right on.
You hear me?
Yes.
How you doing, Norm?
Is this Michael?
Yes, this is Michael Gottlieb. How are you?
I know that you're working on the Broward Canvassing Board, and I know you're taking time out from a meeting to call in about Alvin, and I'm trying to push myself through this show and just listen to what people, have to say about a person whose legal skills and personal attributes were as charming and as professional as you can get in this community.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, you introduced me as a state representative, and I'm an elected Democrat. And Alvin was a Republican committee man. I think at one point in time he was probably the lead Republican in Broward County. We always got along. He was a gentleman's lawyer, a lawyer's lawyer, always dressed to the nines for court. And then, I don't know, I think you were involved in the Marks case, weren't you, at one point in time?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where I really got to know Alvin. Obviously I knew him for, 20 some odd years as a criminal defense lawyer. But then, to work side by side with him in the trenches on that case, he was just, when he spoke, you wanted to listen. You knew that there were pearls of wisdom, years of experience, and you knew what he had to say. He was going to be right. It was impossible to contradict him. And he had a big heart at the same time.
What are we missing? That whenever we advocate something, 40% of the people that disagree with us despise us afterwards. But Alvin, you could disagree with him on anything, and you came out loving him more than when you started the discussion.
Yeah.
What are we both doing wrong?
Right. He was this, big... even when he was, arguing against you, he had this smile on his face, and he was loved by, from what I know, he was loved by anybody and everybody who he touched.
The cross-section of posts about his passion, his principle, his politics, his dignity, his demeanor are so amazing, and his life was so inspirational that he's from all walks of life. He's being paid tributes, and his posts over this weekend on Facebook were his anger at the way our government has been treating and not acknowledging the universal spread of COVID-19, which he endured and came out of, a month being in the hospital, a month of being in oxygen, surviving a mini stroke, getting home, the day later working with a speech pathologist. But this is 2020, and nothing is normal for any of us.
No, and you know what? He was also the consummate family man, because I saw one of his posts a couple of days ago where he applauded his wife, who, for being at his bedside and taking care of him, even though she had some issues. It was
Lois
like,
had COVID and stood by his side day by day, week by week, and year by year, and never left him.
Right, and even in his moment, for people to be concerned about him, he was concerned about her, and it was just, it's just very touching, and it was really, it showed the true character of the person that he is. It was just very touching. There's not enough good that I can say about him, and I think the entire, South Florida legal community is grieving at the loss of a true legal giant.
And I would love to tell you it was just the legal community, but everybody he worked with at Pembroke Pines Theater of the Arts, the loving pillar of community theater, Florida Theater on Stage, Bill Hirschman, everybody that has been involved in the Carbonell Awards are writing the most astounding things about the professional productions, the prints on his wall from Hirschfeld, his knowledge about Gilbert and Sullivan. Everybody says unassailable discernment, encyclopedic knowledge, just and probably one of the most ardent spokesmen for community theater that I've ever known. Okay, Michael, go back to your meeting. I have some other people calling in and just reading the words of the tributes that are being paid to him are worth reading when you get a break later.
I will, and I'm sorry for yours and his family's loss.
Thank you. Thank you. My friend Michael, now Representative Michael Gopp, he's representing District 98 in South Florida. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break. Come back with Alvin's law partner, Richard Della Fera. I hope next.
Hi, this is Norm Kent. Look, there's nothing that makes you feel good about yourself and others feel great about you than a terrific smile. And at Dr. Howard Cunningham's Office of General Restorative and Cosmetic Dentistry, his team of dental assistants will offer you quality care, ultimate comfort, and state-of-the-art technology right here in Fort Lauderdale. His number is 954-566-9812. Oakland Park Dental offers a comprehensive range of general and enhanced services, a virtual rainbow of treatment for your care. From Botox to dental implants, root canals to dermal fillers, you can get it all with a team that's set apart from the rest because they make you as patients number one. Visit Dr. Cunningham's site at oaklandparkdental.com and you will find a gentleman and staff that offers you professionalism, dedication, responsibility, and reliability, and will make that stressful trip to the dentist a soothing and calm one for you. 954-566-9812 and tell them Norm sent you. Thank you.
This year, Broward County voters can help build a better school board by selecting more qualified professionals to serve our community. Dr. Jeff Holness is a parent with children in our schools and a candidate with your needs in his heart. From teaching preschool to operating a successful business, Dr. Holness brings to the table a commitment to diversity and excellence, along with an endorsement from Wilton Manor City Commissioner Julie Carson. Learn more by visiting www.jeffholness.com and vote November 3rd for Dr. Holness. Twice selected as a Department Teacher of the Year. Make him your school board representative for the next 4. Paid for by the Citizens to Elect Jeff Holness campaign.
Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
And back with you we are. And now, speaking of Alvin Entin, I will bring on Richard Della Fera, his longtime law partner. But first, let me read, and Richard will want to hear it, as Lois and his family will. The tribute Bill Hirschman has just posted at Florida Theater on Stage. It's impossible to write a conventional, stay-within-the-lines obituary worthy of Alvin Entin, a unique and special human being who invested his life force in at least 5 passions simultaneously. A proud family man, a loyal and supportive friend who gifted us with 100 silent mitzvahs, a hard-working, far-traveling defense attorney, a political activist who put principle over party label, and of course, as a pillar of the South Florida Community Theater, whether it was acting, leading its board, or just working inside the ticket booth on opening weekend, he was special. And Bill didn't even know how bad a fantasy baseball player he was. But that's okay. He perhaps loved that more than anything. Richard, thanks for joining me.
A pleasure to be here, Norman. I'm sorry under these circumstances, but we're paying homage to a very special person, and I'm happy to be with you for that.
Tell me, all the years that you worked for him and you're on the CJA panel that I understand from his son Keith has got hundreds of posts from other lawyers who worked with him in the most adverse of circumstances in federal courts with the most difficult of cases, and one person after another is saying amazing things about him.
Right. Well, it's kind of poetic that I was able to post on the CJA listserv about Alvin's passing and to get all those wonderful tributes that have come through, because Alvin, he got me appointed to the CJA back in 1997 when I was a lawyer of only about 2 years. And he had convinced Judge Johnson to appoint me on a case that she was trying to appoint him on, and he, that's just how generous Alvin was, is that he didn't take a lot of credit for himself. He worked with a lot of lawyers across the country doing a lot of their background investigative work and legal research. And David Kenner out of Los Angeles is one lawyer that comes to mind who represented Snoop Dogg and Suge Knight. And, there's Alvin out there in L.A., part of the defense team for Snoop Dogg and that wonderful acquittal that they obtained for him in the late 90s. And, the tributes that are coming in, I mean, they're all it really speaks to Alvin's character, how much of an open book he was and how honest and genuine he was with everyone, because everyone knows that, and everyone in the tributes that are coming back on the listserv, everyone recognizes that, that he just was a great soul, a fantastic lawyer, was a friend to everyone, was helpful to lawyers of all ages and all levels of experience. And, another thing I was commenting to David Marcus, who runs the Southern
He
District.
does the Miami blog, right?
Right. And, he was sharing with me just a little vignette of a closing argument story that he had about Alvin that made him laugh to this day. And that was another aspect of Alvin. I think Josh had touched on it. Juries loved Alvin Entin. He could get into their minds and get into their hearts and relate to them in a way that really was really special. I mean, it was an awe-inspiring event to watch Alvin to do a closing argument and to watch him eviscerate a snitch witness or an FBI agent, a lead case agent, and to do it with such grace and skill. I just honestly, I mean, I'm biased because I was his partner for so long, but I don't know that I've ever seen a lawyer as well versed at those talents as Alvin Entin, and those skills as Alvin Entin.
I think you just said it. He would dice you up, and you'd feel good getting cut.
No, you
pieces.
would. I mean, I think an agent, an experienced FBI agent would walk away from that cross-examination going, "Man, that guy is good." Not, I hate that guy for pointing out the inconsistencies in my argument or my testimony, or suggesting that I'm fabricating. I think they all walked away going, "Wow, that is a damn good lawyer," and that that speaks to his level of skill, particularly throughout the whole legal community, because every judge in town has seen every lawyer in town argue and cross-examine, and I think every judge would say that Alvin Entin is one of the best lawyers who has ever appeared in that judge's courtroom. I mean, I've heard it from judges over the past 25 years that I've been practicing, and it was I'm so grateful to the man for taking me, in and showing me the ropes and introducing me to, the movers and the shakers, because, some of that, fairy dust rubbed off on me. And, I will forever be indebted to Alvin Entin for giving me that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Richard. it's phenomenal to have you on the air and share those words. And there are so many that want to call in and tell vignettes and stories, and they come, as Bill Hirschman says in this amazing tribute I read. He was involved in 5 passions simultaneously, from being the nephew to Joshua to a law partner, from being a supported friend who gifted us with the mitzvahs, to being a hard-working, far-traveling defense attorney, to being a political activist who put principle over party label. And as Rafael Almeida is about to tell us, some theatrical and thespianic stories that few people know about. I was like amazed. I say, how does this man have time on top of everything else to be going out at night to the Pembroke Pines Theater performing art? And
he had boundless energy. He really did. He never quit. He was so energetic and so passionate about so many things and so knowledgeable about them, and just in he just really enjoyed every aspect of his life. And before I go, Norman, let me just thank you for paying this tribute to him and giving the time on your show. I know you two were very, very close, and I know he loved you, and I know you loved him. And it's wonderful to have friends in this world that you can admire and respect. And so thank you for that, Norm.
Richard, in 25 years, it's probably one of the hardest shows I've ever done, but maybe one of the best, just to listen to people say the things they can about Alvin. And we'll come back from a break with Rafael Almeida from the Sun Sentinel on Norm Kent Raw, live at 4. Thank you.
Almost busted in Laredo, but for reasons that I'd rather not disclose.
I smoke pot, and I like it a lot. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer to use than alcohol. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting responsible marijuana smokers in America. And to learn what you can do to help, please contact NORML at www.NORML.
I want to introduce you to Timothy Hart from R3 Accounting in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Mr. Hart has over 30 years of accounting and finance experience. We know going to an accountant can sometimes be intimidating, but you can have peace of mind with the award-winning R3 team, knowing they make meeting your record-keeping, regulatory compliance, and personal or company or finance needs as you grow a priority. Specializing in the needs and concerns of small, private, and public companies, R3's primary goal as your trusted advisor is to provide insightful advice to empower you to make informed financial decisions. R3 Accounting is devoted to helping individuals and families from all walks of life and throughout the generations, no matter the circumstances. Don't waste any more time and go see the R3 team today. Call Timothy Hart today at 954-202-9770 to schedule an in-person meeting with heightened safety precautions in their Fort Lauderdale office.
Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
And back with you we are on this Monday, October 26, 2020, as the Norm Kent Show pays tribute and homage to one of the best and most renowned lawyers South Florida has ever seen walk a courtroom, Alvin Entin, who passed from the residual consequences of COVID-19, the coronavirus. Last night, from that, like I said, disease, we're turning a corner, the president said, yes, and driving off a cliff. But as Bill Hirschman said, so many people met Alvin in so many different ways. I got a special kick out of the way Sun Sentinel reporter, columnist, and writer Rafael Almeida met Alvin Entin. He could share, if he could share it with us now, I would be very grateful. Hi, Rafael.
Hey, Norm, how are you?
Getting through the day, a difficult one.
I know. I feel the same way. I'm talking to people, and we're having conversations, and I'm doing these interviews while trying to not lose my composure. And I'm proud to say that I was about 80% successful in that task.
Well, you're better than I am. I can't tell you that I've gotten through the. I kept an appointment this morning. I went to Hyams Motor Cars at 441 in Oakland Park, the old Monarch Dodge site where King Paul actually got my start on the radio at that location when it was Monarch Dodge, and he had WFTL in 1992. And I bought a ProMaster for delivery for my newspaper, South Florida Gay News, where I'd feature an occasional article about Alvin, and even J.W. Arnold, our entertainment columnist, knew Alvin from the community theaters and is devastated by his sudden loss. But I did say what great guys they were over there at Hyam Motors and how they treated me so nicely on a tough day, and I said I'd give them a shout-out because we're in this day and age, we pay for airtime, and Alvin was always there supporting me in every way he could. So tell me that story you were telling us on Facebook about Alvin.
Yeah, when I first met Alvin, it was not with me as a reporter or him as an attorney. I had just moved to South Florida from New York, and I was a big fan of musical theater in New York, and so down here I went to see one of their productions of Jekyll and Hyde. And I remember, we didn't have Facebook at the time yet. It was still a few years out. So all of our communicating about these shows was done through email lists. And so I went on an email list for Jekyll and Hyde and Scarlet Pimpernel fans, and I wrote about this local theater production of Jekyll and Hyde and how much I enjoyed it. And the one person who wrote back to me was Alvin. And he was telling me about how he appreciated the honesty of how I presented my thoughts on the production, and I hope you get out here more. And soon enough we both realized that we had another life in common, where he was an attorney and I was a reporter who covers attorneys. But ever since then, I mean, I've just enjoyed the fact that he played in the Scarlet Pimpernel is one of my favorite musical theater productions, and on Broadway and at Pembroke Pines, the roles of Robespierre and the Prince of Wales are played by the same person, and that was Alvin. So I was tickled when he played those roles, and whenever he would write something that I either disagreed with or I found amusing or something like that in his on his Facebook social media posts, I would respond things like, "Sink me! The man's lost his senses," which is, of course, nobody who was reading it understood except for Alvin, because he knew exactly what I meant. He knew that I was poking fun at not just what he said, but our shared enjoyment of Frank Wildhorn musicals. So I'm going to miss him as a human being, and having to write his obituary, and it just reminds me to always be prepared, because I wasn't. And despite the fact that he had COVID, despite the fact that a couple of days ago he suffered a stroke, it just didn't occur to me, oh my goodness, I may have to write this man's obituary if I'm not careful. And suddenly 2 days later, here I am.
He won Manager of the Year in the Green Diamonds Fantasy League this year. All through the COVID crisis, he managed his team and managed them to a first-tier finish for the first time ever. Well, and I have one of the fantasy players calling in after you.
I would say that if people want to pay tribute to Alvin, that the thing to do is to support community theater. Because you want to talk about what somebody does for a living. Okay, he was great at what he did. You want to talk about his family. He loved his family more than anything else in the world. But you want to talk about what he valued, you look at what he did with the time that he had to spare. And goodness, how much time did he have to spare? He's a lawyer with a family with 6 kids.
A family of 6. A law firm. Taking cases from the Virgin Islands to New York. And so many people like myself relied on him, but he lived and loved, as Bill Hirschman says, community theater with a passion. And what he would call me up and say, why isn't the South Florida Gay News writing about the Pembroke Pines Theater of the Performing Arts? And they've got amazing shows and great production, and the whole theatrical community, when I would have them as guests on my show, from the Broadway Center to the Performing Arts, they would all know who Alvin was.
Of course. Who doesn't know Alvin Entin? This man dedicated his life to so many causes and to so many things that are important, but really, he made you feel the importance of theater. He made you feel the importance of what they were doing or what they are doing in Pembroke Pines. What he did, not to spread a COVID joke here, but what he did, his passion for theater was contagious, and I think we all caught it from him. I mean, everybody who you go in there thinking, I'm just going to watch a little show here, and okay, it's community theater, so what? And you love it. You connect with it in a way that you're not going to connect with it in some big Broadway production. You're going to be overwhelmed. But here you realize, hey, these are real people putting on their hearts for you, and that's what Alvin was about, and that's what his devotion to theater was about. And this was a hard story to write. It is a hard story because I'm still in the middle of it. But here is a person who, as I'm writing the story and interviewing people, I'm not able to maintain my composure. I can't do it. I've lost a friend, and I don't mean that to be. I know
of what. I know of what you say and think because I'm going through it now, trying to push my way through my birthday buddy's show, and I'm doing it by listening to other people.
To the guy. Your loss is greater than mine, but still, I mean, this guy, he just made you feel that. He made me feel like a friend. He made me feel like, if I had no place to go for Thanksgiving, he'd invite me over, and
I think there you go. You've just used a great quote. He made everybody feel like a friend, and he was one to all. Raphael, thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Norm.
I know you're on deadline.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go to I'm on a break for the few sponsors I have left in this COVIDically compromised era. We're going to get to them and then have a few more friends call in before I talk about the crisis that is COVID that still impacts our lives so dramatically, as there are now 8,746,000 cases. And I saw, and I've been waiting for this to happen, the COVID-19 deaths in America today is at 229,284. I don't know how many of you have ever been to Boise, Idaho. Population 229,584. We've wiped out an American city this year, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back on Norm Kent Raw Live at 4.
Folks, if you own a business that is not making as much as you think it should make or could make, maybe you need to expand your reach to the gay and lesbian community of South Florida. Nobody can do that better for you than the South Florida Gay News, sfgn.com. You get bang for your buck because our business is making you business. SFGN is Florida's largest and most credentialed LGBTQ weekly newspaper, a media partner with the Sun Sentinel and CNN, a member of the Associated Press and the Florida Press Association. SFGN taps into the affluent gay and lesbian market a community with disposable income and diverse interests, from traveling on cruises to fine dining, one that purchases beautiful homes and drives premium cars. Let me tell you this, ads in SFGN or their companion high-glossy arts and entertainment magazine, The Mirror, will drive new clientele your way. Reliable and trusted, well-read and nationally respected, SFGN has been publishing for 10 years and is distributed to over 350 locations in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties, as well as on sfgn.com. A friendly, low-pressure sales team will create an ad for your budget. You can call them right now at 954-530-4970. That's 954-530-4970.
CAN Community Health, together with Broward House and Pridelines, is now offering telehealth and teleprep services. Please visit cancommunityhealth.org for more information about services and scheduling a virtual appointment. That's cancommunityhealth.org.
Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
This Monday, October 26th, putting together an unanticipated tribute show for one of my best friends who happens to be perhaps one of the premier attorneys in the United States of America and certainly South Florida, who was taken from us suddenly last night. Simply, let me just say, from the residual effects of having spent nearly 4 weeks in the hospital with COVID-19, 1 week after his 75th birthday. And when we last talked, it was about whether the Dodgers would pull off this victory. His beloved Brooklyn Dodgers. He was born, Alvin Entin was, in Brooklyn, came to South Florida with a degree in government from American University in Washington, graduated from the University of Miami Law School with a JD, winning all sorts of moot court championships, selected year after year as the top of his class, best writer, best speaker, listed in Who's Who amongst students in American colleges and universities. He lived a great career, but Alvin, like me, we had an incredible passion for sports, for baseball, for the Dodgers, for in the midst of raising 6 children and trying criminal cases and doing theatrical theater groups. We would talk the Mets, the Dodgers, sports, and dare I say, he named, and I'm not sure, Lois, if I should reveal this, because a lot of people, they might be wondering how he named his 3 children after Mets from the night. And Gary is named after Gary Carter. Keith is named after Keith Hernandez. I'm not sure that kept with the Jewish tradition, but that's how passionate Charlie Alvin was about sports. Amanda, you're lucky you're not named Mookie.
I'm telling you. Norman?
Charlie Gilbert from the Green Diamonds Fantasy League. And didn't we go to spring training one day with a bunch of guys from with Alvin up in Jupiter at a Marlins game?
Yes, we did. And
that was 20 years ago when the Marlins were in the major leagues.
Yeah, right. Norman, thank you for doing this. This is awesome. And I was shattered this morning when I read the news. So thank you for making me part of this. But you're right. He was the worst fantasy player ever.
He'll come back and shoot me for saying that.
Oh, hey, you know the law. You should speak ill of the dead.
But who else would trade me Julio Urias for Trevor Rogers?
Well, I think, there's now that he's not here to defend himself, was there collusion involved? We really need to know.
No, I just outsmarted him when it came to fantasy baseball, which meant nothing. And when it came to representing defendants and acquitting them and persuading judges and convincing juries, he destroyed me. In matters that mattered most, like raising families, he was a lot better than me. I mean, he has children that have grown up to be accomplished actors and marvelous attorneys. I have children I don't want that he's defending.
Well, I've listened to your show, and I've heard all these glowing speeches about Alvin, what a great attorney he was, and he was certainly that. And what a great actor he was certainly that. But as a Dodger fan, second to none. So the Dodgers are going to win tonight, Norm. You can bank on it.
Well, it's not. I think they're off tonight. But I've already announced to the world that they really won Saturday night. Saturday night was a fictional, make-believe loss, and the Dodgers have won the World Series 4-1.
Nah, man. You know me. I'm a Red Sox fan. So I know a little bit about this karma stuff.
Well, Mookie went 0 for 5 that game last night and 1 for 4 last night. He needs to get on base and seal a deal here. It would make Alvin proud. He wanted the Dodgers to win.
They will win. The Dodgers are going to win, and the UM might even win the ACC for him.
He loved the UM. He gets out of the hospital. Everybody wants to know how he's doing with COVID, how he handled the stroke, and he's posting about Donald Trump and UM. He was so passionate about everything. Alvin reminded me of my mother in one sense. Everybody was entitled to his opinion.
Whether we wanted it or not.
And the only problem is I told him he needed an editor. I needed to chop off a couple of words. He ran on a little too long.
Well, that made him the great courtroom lawyer that he was. I think I don't know if I shared this story with you.
Wait, I have breaking news from Edmund. I have breaking news from Edmund, his son, the twin in California, who I love dearly, and I scared the hell out of Alvin one day because I said, the good news, Alvin, is I'm going to see your twins. I might even take them to a baseball game. The bad news is I'm going out on a date with them. And he said, I'll cut your genitals off.
So what's the breaking news?
And Edmund is reporting, for what it's worth, he was better at fantasy football. His last fantasy football game was against me last night, and he pulled out the win.
There you go.
How's that for breaking news?
Like I said, it's karma. And as a Red Sox fan, I know a bit about that.
Well, the Red Sox went 104 years without a World Series win. Alvin was born in Brooklyn, and he went a long time without a World Series win for the Brooklyn Dodgers after they won in 55 with Johnny Padres. But the amazing thing about Alvin is he could go, as I said, he could recite a line from the Pirates of Penzance 1 minute and then tell you about Johnny Padres' last pitch in the 55 World Series. His colossal and vast encyclopedic knowledge of everything, from law to theater to sports, was just utterly astounding.
Alvin, we miss you, my friend. Norman, I'll speak to you later.
Thank you so much for calling in, Charlie.
No problem. We'll talk soon.
This is Norm Kent. We're all live at 4. We'll be right back.
This is WWNN Pompano Beach, the FM Money Talk Radio Network, 95.3, 96.9, 103.9 for business, investments, and news.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Rena Roy. President Trump continuing to downplay the severity of COVID, saying he and his family got it and are fine. This at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania.
We have great medicines now, great therapeutics, and First Lady got it and she's doing great. But you know who else got it? Barron. My very tall son got it.
But health officials say total daily COVID deaths are on the rise, up 10% in the past week. The World Health Organization says Europe is once again an epicenter for COVID. Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove in Geneva.
We're seeing beds filling up too quickly. And we're seeing many projections of saying that the ICU beds will reach capacity in the coming days and the coming weeks.
Despite several of his staffers testing positive, Vice President Pence is still holding campaign events. But we're now learning he won't be on Capitol Hill this evening when Judge Amy Coney Barrett is expected to be confirmed to the Supreme Court.
Vice President Pence is not expected to preside over Judge Barrett's Senate vote this evening unless his vote is needed. Multiple sources telling ABC News that Republicans have the votes needed to confirm Judge Barrett, so it's unlikely that Pence's vote will be needed unless multiple Republicans don't show up, which is also highly unlikely and not expected to happen. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News, Washington.
A fast-moving wildfire forcing evacuations for 60,000 people in Orange County, Southern California. In Northern California, PG&E expected to cut power to hundreds of thousands in the Bay Area because of high winds and dry conditions that could spark wildfires. This person in Lafayette says it just adds to other challenges this year.
Everything is just so much harder right now because of COVID and fires and power outages.
This is ABC News.
Suicide is a national public health concern, but it is preventable. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and Dr. Matthew Miller, director of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Suicide Prevention Program, is encouraging everyone to be there for veterans.
The health and well-being of our nation's veterans is VA's highest priority. We want veterans, community leaders, and veterans' families and friends to know suicide can be prevented, and anyone can help reduce suicide risk by giving hope to veterans going through a difficult time.
VA takes a community-driven approach to suicide prevention that reaches veterans everywhere they live, work, and thrive.
Each of us has a role to play in suicide prevention. Your simple gesture of concern, like texting or calling a veteran to check in, can reduce suicide risk. We encourage everyone to save the Veterans Crisis Line in your phone, 1-800-273-8255, press 1, available 24/7.
For more information, visit BeThereForVeterans.com.
Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
And back with you we are for the extended 30 minutes we're doing through the election next week. And once again, it is beyond astonishing to hear the president and vice president on the air celebrating the end to the pandemic on a day when I've not only lost a personal, close, and dear friend, when Jake Tapper just came on the lead at 4 p.m. and said that the virus spike is up in virtually every single state in the union, and we have not even come to the fall and winter months when people will be locked up in closed doors because of the cold weather. And those people here in South Florida, which have been living under governor death sentence for the past 8 months, are going to have to deal with the harsh reality that the affluent, wealthy, and rich who are going to come to Florida to escape the closed-door environments that are going to be penetrating all over the United States and come to South Florida to get away from the virus. Lots of them are going to be bringing it here, to the maskless universe, where people get beat up like my client in Jacksonville did last week for going to a Trump protest rally And a 70-year-old man came up and just attacked him and threw a punch at him because he was posting a sign opposing Trump. This is the world that we live in. And this is the kind of inequity and injustice and wrong that Alvin Entin stood up against for so long. But he did so with such class and courage and grace that you go on to sites like Theater on Stage and read tributes from a Bill Hirschman or Facebook, and then you look at the comments that are made by so many about his life, and they're mind-boggling and mind-blowing because they are so credibly loving about what an amazing human being he was and how he will be cherished by so many for so long for all the things that he did. So what have I done wrong so far? I now see that I'm referring to the post from his son Gary as coming from Edmond, the great twins that have done in their own right marvelous work in Hollywood. And here in South Florida, we still have so much more to do. And now, I was talking to you earlier about how Alvin had once been a congressional candidate, a Republican congressional candidate. More breaking news. Now, this is shocking even to me because we have fought over this so many times. Keith is saying that Alvin changed his parties. I don't think he signed up for the Green Party or Independent Party. I'm guessing that he switched to the Democratic Party. As well, he should have, because we are not unsettled by conspiracy theory crazies like the QAnon group that have tragically made a mockery of politics this year, where the President of the United States has said that they're against pedophiles. They are so far gone that to give them airtime makes us all look so incredibly foolish. There's an excellent article by Cindy Kirscher Goodman in today's South Florida Sun Sentinel saying, "Are Floridians getting an accurate picture of who is dying from COVID-19 and when?" And she answers declaratively, not likely, because in August, Florida changed its rules for determining whether someone died of COVID-19, moving that responsibility from the public medical examiners to some of the doctors who treated the patients. And this was initially designed to relieve medical examiners who were swamped with COVID deaths. But what it does is it creates remarkable inconsistencies. And now, in the very same state where you could not get unemployment for months and you could not get testing results for weeks, we have the Florida Surgeon General, Scott Rifkes, ordering an investigation into the fact that there are COVID deaths being reported as much as 2 months late. Now, do you realize what this means? It means that people are losing their loved ones and perhaps not even knowing or finding out the real cause of their death because the results are not coming in on a timely basis from either our county or state reporting agencies. And you've heard of Murphy's Law, and, well, I think about Alvin, I think of Jimmy Breslin's book in the 1960s about the New York Mets, who finished with a record of 40 and 120. Can't anyone here play this game? And I go to myself, can't anybody here govern this state? Does anybody not have any clue of what to do or how to do it? 250,000 people didn't get unemployment because the state website Governor Death Sentence admitted was a jalopy. Hundreds of thousands of people went for testing that they now say was inaccurate and wrong. Thousands of other people are waiting 48 hours or longer to get test results that were supposed to be back in 15 minutes. You can't make up this stuff. You just can't make up this stuff. And in the face of all this, you have individuals like Alvin Entin who stood up against this type of incompetence and injustice his whole life. As we get older, we all lose friends and family, but this has been rough for the Entin family because his brother Richard, another lawyer, just lost his life to pancreatic cancer earlier this month. And like Kevin Tynan said on his Facebook site, here's a person who loved baseball and theater. His children got introduced to Alvin as the rabbi in Fiddler on the Roof. And you have not lived, he said, unless you saw Alvin in a kimono in the Mikado. And that's the way we're taught in Jewish tradition to remember people, to understand that yesterday's memories become tomorrow's light. To know that, as Alvin always taught and told me, he who can laugh at himself will never cease to be amused. And I guess in the face of what has been a terrible year, we can't so much lament what we have lost as much as we must persevere and push on and remember what we have. We have to be, like Roy Campanella used to say, you have to have a lot of little kid in you to play this hard game. You can't let pain make you hate. You can't let bitterness steal your sweetness. You have to take pride that even though the rest of the world may disagree, like Kurt Vonnegut once said, it's still a beautiful place. I get angry when I hear a politician say, "Make America Great Again." Anybody who's been to a Broadway theater, a national park, seen our astounding sunsets from Coral Springs to Laguna Beach, anyone who's gotten on a plane in the morning from Michigan and wound up in Mykonos, we know that there's so much beauty in this world, and there's a time that it gets taken away from us. So let's all just get along better, love a little bit more. If we fight for anything, Let's fight for peace and prosperity, health and healing, harmony and hope. Let's do what Robert F. Kennedy taught me in 1968 to seek a newer world. Not so much to see things as they are, but ask ourselves about why we can't see things as they are not and hope that they one day can be. And boy, have I ever butchered up that phrase. George Bernard Shaw would never forgive me. We'll be right back on Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
Hi, this is Norm Kent. My friend John opened Castelli Real Estate Services in 2004, and now he has over 100 agents on staff, priding themselves on professionalism and dedication, immediately responding to your needs and your concerns. Look, my brother, the psychologist, Dr. He Who Shall Not Be Mentioned, says that picking and choosing a home can be a traumatic experience. Not when you choose John Castelli Real Estate Services, and their team of agents. Not a corporate conglomerate. They provide local service where owners and brokers are fully accessible, more than happy to speak with you one-on-one. You can visit their website at CastelliHomes.com, stop by their offices in Wilton Manors, or even give them a call at 954-563-9889. Let John and his team welcome you home.
The news around COVID-19 is changing daily and can be scary. AHF Pharmacy is working hard to be there for our clients during this crisis. Our number one priority is keeping our clients and staff safe while continuing to provide the services you need. If you use AHF's pharmacy, we will deliver or mail your prescription directly to you. Delivery of your medication is customizable and confidential. Options include delivery via an AHF courier, USPS Priority Mail, or FedEx. We can arrange for the delivery to be left at your home or an alternate location that you have approved and specified. In an effort to make sure that you have uninterrupted access to your medications in uncertain times, we will be refilling your prescriptions early so that you have a 60-day buffer. AHF Pharmacy is working hard to help people stay on their medications. No matter what, we are here to help. For more information on our pharmacy services, please call 855-894-MEDS or go to ahfpharmacy.org.
Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
And in the face of this spectacular virus that the administration has so totally abandoned a level of control and competency on, Mark Meadows goes on Jake Tapper yesterday and openly admits we're not going to control this virus. No, we definitely won't. With people like you at the helm and the head of the Corona Task Force, the vice president on charge, this man can't get a fly off his head, let alone control a global epidemic. Oh, boy, Randy Rainbow is a friend of Amanda, who is a daughter of Alvin Entin. And how many people get sick and have Randy Rainbow do a video clip inspiring him to recover as Alvin did, because Randy from South Florida used to be in the media room at Alvin's house learning perhaps some of his thespianic ways. And Alvin told me he was so proud of the video that Randy did of him and made fun of me, saying, I bet Duke Snyder never called in on one of your birthdays when you got sick. But what you have to do is dust yourself up, pick yourself up, and move on, and work for a cure. You know, it's been 20 years since I ran an AIDS clinic, and every morning I would wake up and the doctors would drop off a list of families I would have to call of their loved ones that passed away. But we moved forth. And while we have no cure for AIDS, we do have AHF and a wealth of national and international agencies taming the pandemic, making it controllable. We still have aid walks and smart rides like my friend Glenn Weinzimmer has run that do what they can to educate people and know their status and get tested and control the spread of this disease that still is not totally cured. But we fight it with a passion and a principle and a purpose. And it would have been nice if the people who were living in the White House, if only for 4 years, did so with that same level of principle and didn't turn their eyes to this virus early on when people like Michael Weinstein at AIDS Healthcare Foundation were screaming in January to declare it a pandemic, when doctors were urging people to wear masks. Yes, Donald Trump has a mask. Trouble is, he wears it over his eyes. And so, too, does his very administration. But this is a year that has taken a toll on all of us. And in a lengthy post on Facebook and on his website, Arlo Guthrie has announced this past weekend that while he can still sing and he can still sing, he's turning it in. No more concerts at Parker Playhouse for him. He is retiring. But Jerry Jeff Walker, the Texas singer and songwriter who crafted Mr. Bojangles, has passed away at the age of 78 from cancer. And yes, this is a year of loss, most assuredly. But if loss teaches us everything, like Phil Oakes sings in his 60 song, When I'm Gone, you better, if you have a chance, do something and say something while you're here, because this could be that one opportunity. There may be no golden globe up in the sky. So be like those folk singers of the 60s in your own life, ladies and gentlemen. And when you've got something to say it now. Just say it with the grace and goodness and class and dignity that allows your voice to be heard. Don't be so crass and crude that your message is lost in your madness. And sadly, we live in a world and in a place where the President of the United States is so self-absorbed at how he looks, he doesn't see the way the rest of the world feels. And if you can do anything in your life today, tomorrow, and in the future, do what Abraham Lincoln said 150 years ago. The best way to defeat an enemy is to make him a friend. So perhaps you can take your time out and try to persuade the unprincipled. I wouldn't suggest you do it with the fist, as we are watching all too often in supermarkets and Walmarts and Targets. But I will say this, Mr. President, as a vice presidential candidate said in one of his debates when he said, I think it was to Dan Quayle, I knew Jack Kennedy and you were no Jack Kennedy. Donald Trump, you are no Lincoln. If you are, it's George Lincoln Rockwell, perhaps, the founder of the American Nazi Party. And maybe because of my years as a talk show host, I'm still a little bit quicker than Joe Biden. But when you turn 70, you can tend to forget things that you said years ago. But Donald Trump has been a liar from way back. Go to YouTube, type in Rachel Maddow, Donald Trump, and Mickey Mantle, and you will hear Donald Trump saying he was the greatest baseball player in New York in the 1960s because his people told him that. Yeah. While Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris were leading the Yankees to pennants and hitting 56 and 61 home runs, even then Donald Trump thought he was the best of the best, never realizing that history would record him as the worst of the worst. He's been saying lately he's done more in 47 months than Joe Biden did in 47 years. And boy, there are times I wish I was Joe Biden's speechwriter or could have been there to respond, because doing stand-up for years, I'm fortunate enough to have a little memory bank to respond. And I would have said, yeah, Mr. Trump, you're right. No president has ever killed as many Americans in 47 months as you have. No president has ever destroyed the economy in 47 months as you have. No president in this nation of America has ever treated American citizens as poorly as you have. There are people who can live lives of inspiration and passion, of vigor. Mr. President, you're not one of them. The virus you have given us, 50 years from now, 500,000 deaths from now, 20 million cases from now, it's going to be known as the Trump virus. And all I can say and pray is that on November 3rd, 2020, when all the ballots have been cast and the votes have been counted, you will have been bounced out of office and escorted from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on your ARSE, as the old English would have said. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a show where I paid tribute to a loving and dear friend who typifies how much we have lost in America this year. 225,580 lives. And I started making this show COVID-centric in February when I said, I see this becoming a worldwide epidemic, that our government is going to be incapable, inept, and unwilling to control. And now we have all suffered incalculable losses, personal pain. Let's make sure it never happens again. Thanking you for your time this time until next time. This has been Norm Kent Raw, live at 4.
Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Norm Kent Show. You can hear him broadcasting live from 4 to 5:30 p.m. and rebroadcast from 11 to 12:30 every day, right here on WWNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, along with WWNNradio.com and the app Florida's Money Talk Radio.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.